So yeah, man. I mean, really, the reason why we're here today
Okay.
is, and the reason for this podcast is just kind of documenting, what happened with. I mean, my intention was not to be a property manager, like in life.
In life, no.
No, that wasn't like what I was doing for work. And I bought at Squire, and it was interesting because in my mind, when I took that on, I had another business that's what I was planning on doing, with my life. And I had just gotten this property as a rental, right? And when things went really south and it wasn't being managed well, I was like, well, I'll manage it. And it was only supposed to be like $14K a year or something like that, just to manage Squire. And then you referred me the Muse.
Yes.
And that's when it started to snowball, right?
Exactly.
And so for the viewers, this is my guest Rob.
Hey, how's it going?
I won't give them your last name for
All right.
Rob D. And he is so Rob is responsible for me being in the property management business because originally it was just supposed to be a side gig. It was just supposed to be for that one association that I had a unit in. And then you referred me the second one.
Second one, yeah.
And then it kind of kept snowballing from there. But I really wanted to get you on here to just, I remember what it was like from my lens, from my perspective, but there's different people. Like last time I had the board president that, formally signed me on as the property manager. I was on the board with her, Heather, and then she gave me the shot at property management. And so I'm just kind of following this chronologically because she was responsible for my first association. And then you were kind of responsible for introducing me to the second one. So I just want to get from your perspective, kind of what was going on before, what happened, and then what triggered you to be like, hey, I'm going to refer him to these people. And then, what had happened prior with that association. Just kind of give me again, I know some of it, but from your perspective, and so these guys hear the backstory of kind of, what, kind of how all this played out.
Okay, so I bought my condo in 2019.
Yep.
And it was a years, and I had no problems with them, but you would always hear stuff, but I didn't really pay attention because I just bought the condo.
Also, we're not going to use other companies' names.
Okay.
Just because we don't want to. I'll edit them out of the bus. But just so we don't throw them under the bus.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not lying. So. So yeah, you're gonna edit some stuff because I don't know what.
No, it's all good. I just wanted you don't use company names.
Okay. So I had no problems with them and stuff like that, but all of a sudden I just get this letter saying that Jared was taking over. And I wasn't on the condo board or anything else like that. I was basically just changing my new life was starting and stuff like that. So Jared actually went door to door with a piece of paper because I was home, but I didn't want to answer the door because I was tired. It was a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I knew he was there. And I didn't know who was there, but I said, I'm not going to answer it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what's it called? So I ended up getting the paper, but Jared, I have a tight unit and stuff, a tight group in our unit and stuff, and we were talking and stuff, and he was like, another guy, Sam, said, oh, the new property manager came, and he came with a paper, and I read the paper, and he introduced himself, Jared, with his background and stuff like that, which was pretty interesting. A lot of people just come and take over and don't say nothing until it's time to pay the condo fees. And so Jared came, with the paper, and I'm very not computer savvy, and it was how to set up condo payments online. Can I use the company? And I called him and I said, listen, I've been paying by checks, and he said, how about we set up a date? He came over, and I was like, this guy really cares. This guy, came and set it up. where it was just so easy. All I have to do was go online and just press pay, and I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And I noticed stuff getting done, since I was there. Underneath our stairwell, we had a lot of stuff. We don't know who left it there. And next thing you know is, everybody in our unit was getting a fine until it was gone. So I'm like, hey, at least he cares about the building. And me and the other guy said, it's not ours, but we'll go clean it out because we're not getting fined.
Right.
And, I called Jared, and, he's always called me back and stuff like that. And one day, I'm a mailman. I was delivering mail, and one of the ladies came up to me, and she asked me, she goes, do you know any property managers? And I was like, well, Jared seems pretty good. He's always returned my calls. And I was like, let me call him. So I called him. I asked him, I said, would you be interested in trying this other property? I said, but you're going to get a lot of backlash, because I told him, stuff I see. And I gave the lady his number. The lady gave him his number, and they ended up talking while I delivered mail. And the next thing I know, I said, it's on them. And next thing you know, she's happy with him. He's happy with them. So it's like a match made in heaven, I guess.
It was really good. It was, I've learned a lot from having to manage that property. And I go ahead.
I mean, there was I'm not good, but there were problems beforehand. You got there, and I let you know.
Yeah, so you did. And that's kind of actually, I want to talk a little bit about that. We can just refer to the property as the Muse because there's lots of different Muse everywhere. Okay. So we don't have to specify which Muse it is.
Yeah.
But the Muse, and without using last names, maybe you can give a little bit of a background as, first off, I got to say, as far as mailmans go, this dude knows everybody. I mean, you deliver mostly in Hartford, right?
Yes.
Downtown Hartford.
Yeah.
Just south of, well, I won't, but downtown Hartford. And I've never seen a more loved mailman who knows everybody. Everybody's name, their life, it's amazing.
I was brought up to treat people how you want to be treated. Saying hi to somebody if they're having a bad day could change their whole day around. You can't judge someone until you walk a mile in their shoes. You really can't.
It's true.
You don't know someone's background. You don't know how bad of a day they're having. Just say hi.
Yeah.
What happens? Treat people with respect. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's amazing because where you deliver mail, it's a pretty rough part of Hartford.
Yeah, it is. It is. But like I said, everybody wants their packages, so they're not going to mess with the mailman.
Yeah. Well, until that one time. But did you guys ever get that sorted out?
No, it's still. I told you they found my IDs the next day.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Where were they?
On a porch.
Really?
And then the guy on the porch was like, they must have liked you because they didn't throw it out. You know what I mean? Everything was there except, I don't want to talk about that. But
except your money?
No, I never carry money.
Oh, okay.
Never carry money. Remember that. Nah.
So anyways, moving on. Maybe you can give them a little bit of a background of what was going on at that property because you were delivering mail there for how long?
I've been on that route 18 years. Or no, 16 years. 16 years. I've been in the post office 19. So 16 years I've been on that route.
All right. So you've
I've seen everything. I've seen the fact of, the bottom floors getting flooded out.
Yeah.
I've seen people quit in the middle of snow plowing. I swear. It's they do it one time and never show up again. I've seen, just boilers going all the time.
Yeah.
Out,
water heaters. Yeah.
Water heaters and stuff like that. Next thing you know, you see a flood or you hear water or something, so you report it. But, you just basically see everything. But
So tell us a little bit about what was going, that property seems to have had so much bad luck over the last 20 years.
See, I don't know what I could talk about on that. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you what.
The MDC.
Yeah, anything that I look back on, I'm like, hey, we probably can't. If there's sensitive information, I'll just edit it.
The last property manager. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just don't use their name, but you can say what they did.
Oh, you can't?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can talk about MDC is a public entity. They're the Public Works Department. So it's we can talk about them. We can talk about what the previous management companies did and all that stuff. We just don't want to drop names.
But also, I don't want like someone at the Muse like to get back to somebody. You know what I mean?
Well, Danita's going to be on here.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, she's coming later. She's coming on Wednesday.
Oh, she is? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, edit that out. I mean, Danita's awesome. But,
Yeah.
Oh, so she'll tell you about it too. But like I said, so we'll start from here. But the property, being there, you see a lot happening and stuff like that. Like the last property manager, I don't know. For some reason, they tell the mailman everything. People tell that mailman everything. So I guess someone took over. They wanted it audited. The last property manager did not want it audited for some reason. Next thing you know, he moved, but his condo was set up nice. I heard.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what's it called? Just stuff like going on, like the MDC. It was crazy because this is all what people told me, but it's like MDC said that they put the pump in right. The city of Hartford gave them the wrong stuff. Then the pump was put in backwards, and their city of Hartford's blaming MDC, and it was just a back and forth thing. But the people that actually suffered are the people that lived there.
Yeah.
Because it would always flood the bottom floors. You'd see people saying, oh, man, this heavy rain, it's flooded. It was actually on the news.
Really?
Yeah, if you ever Google it, it was on the news and stuff like that.
Okay.
And, so, I mean, you see it, and then I think, actually, you guys have done a lot of work. You guys have done a lot on the outside, but a lot of stuff has been done, like, when they built it, I think they went with cheap wood, someone told me.
Yeah.
Because if you go around the windows and stuff, you'll see stuff. And
all the trim they used was not, it wasn't pressure treated. It wasn't what they should have been using for.
Yeah. And someone told me it was basically like, it was the cheapest wood they could find to get it, so. No, Jared's done a great job. I mean, I see the stairs being done section by section. Everybody says great things about him. They don't really know that I know Jared, but I guess now they will.
Sorry, but I doubt that many people are going to watch it.
Yeah,
from the association,
because they'll be like, "Oh, I'll talk to the property manager." I'll be like, "Okay," So,
right.
But no, I mean, all I've heard is good things about Jared, about good things about him. From everybody and stuff like that. And then, he's up at he does a great job. I mean, stuff gets done,
I appreciate that. And I will say this. The Muse is the community itself is an easy community to please, because I think they were so used to getting just mistreated for so many years by so many different management companies and MDC and the city. And like even dealing with the city of Hartford's been challenging. Like we've had issues with the parking department. We've had issues where the city will just do stuff that really, negatively affects the residents of that community. And not like they got rid of a bunch of parking on Maple, right?
Yep.
And they lost like 30 spaces, and now they don't have enough spaces for everybody to park their car.
And it's also, like being in Hartford, I mean, people just throw their trash anywhere, and a lot of times it gets thrown in front of the Muse.
Right.
And who gets to you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
and we're the ones who get the call, and we're the ones who have to pay to clean it up.
Exactly. I mean, it's a no-win situation.
Right. And so, and it's tough because the community itself is a nice community, a lot of professionals in there, a lot of, the beautiful units, 2-bedroom, tall ceilings, nice.
Yes.
Very nicely done. I was really surprised because from the outside, it looked kind of beat up. And then when I started going inside the units, I was like, these are really nice units. So we're finally getting to the point where we're starting to have the money to be able to redo the siding and stuff and get the outside looking like the inside. But it's a gated community, and it's in a rough part of town. I mean, the gates weren't working for forever. We finally got the gates working regularly, at least the driving gates. And then we're getting quotes on the pedestrian gates.
Well, I mean, it's the driving gates. I mean, I was there when the gate fell on someone's car and stuff like that. Driving gate sometimes just freezes out. But I mean, I delivered another association too, and they have the same problem with their gates. But pedestrian walkthrough, Honestly, you'll never fix that problem.
Oh, we are.
No, you're not.
You want to bet?
They put new locks. You guys put the locks on, and they broke it the next day, right?
Yeah. So you know what we're doing?
What are you doing?
We're getting 10-foot tall spiked like things that they can't climb over with the push bar, the panic bars, but beefy ones. And they're taking all the fencing down and putting new ones up with the spikes that people can't climb. They're like unclimbable, and they're going to be a lot taller and just beefier everything. And then we have the cameras inside. And once we get those, we might put a security guard out there for a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be with the gates the way they are now. There's no way to do it because anybody can just hop over. They're 6-foot gates, so they can just
and then they'll break the
mechanism.
Yeah,
but once we get that new fencing up, they're not going to be able to get over it to begin with, or it's going to be a huge pain.
Because it's a gated community. I mean, it should be secured, but people, trust me. I went through the first time I delivered mail. I went through the other side. You got to walk far to get back. Because, I park my truck on the other side.
Yeah.
And you got to actually walk far. You got to walk.
So what if another thought that somebody gave me was just to put fences on either side of the cobblestone? Like instead of fencing the entire Muse, have like one fence that divides the south side off and one fence that divides the north side off and leave that fountain area where people can pass through.
But then it wouldn't be a gated community.
You'd have
that's the selling thing. It's gated community.
Well, it'd be gated on each side.
Yeah, but
that's true.
Where the fountain was a street.
Yeah, I know.
There must have been a lot of accidents.
Do you think so?
How narrow that is when you get out.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. This was 18 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. I don't know. How long has the Muse been there?
It's been there. It's been there a while.
It has?
88.
88? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Since 88. So anyways, that should essentially be resolved. But so like some of the things you've seen over the years. So tell me more about the flooding and what was going on with that. Because that's been a huge issue. There's been a lot of claims that, we've been able to rectify it where there's not claims every year, but I know there was a lot of issues for many years.
Yeah, every time it would have a heavy rainstorm, especially in one of the buildings, if there was a heavy rainstorm, you had at least a foot of water. Like, can I use the address?
No, don't use the address.
Okay, well, the one when you go in the building.
Yeah.
It would be like a foot of water.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It would be a foot of water. It just was a problem all the time. Anytime a heavy flood, you would know the Muse was flooded out, the bottom units.
And what did you hear was the cause of that?
Pump being put in backwards.
Really?
Yeah, like the valve was put in backwards, and instead of opening, it was closing and allowing the stuff to come up.
And who was telling you that?
People.
Just
random people, like I would ask, how does that happen?
People at the Muse or people in the city?
People at the Muse.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And because that's just a very specific
Well,
issue.
I was told MDC put the valve in backwards.
Okay.
And that was from a couple people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
And they've never fixed that?
I don't know if if anybody's really been on point about fixing that. You know what I mean? Like, usually, unless it affects them, people don't get back to you. That's what I like about you. You get back to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I listen, I got a lot of love for that association. And the people there are great. It's just a tough area, right? Like most of my headaches come from people outside coming in.
Yeah.
Right. And then my next biggest headache is just from like the entities, like different city entities like MDC and other stuff that are just causing us grief because they're not really, they're not, I don't feel like they really watch out for the interests of the residents there. And it's what makes it a tough city to live in, because I think that there's, we always talk about how the city has had, they've had mayors go to jail for corruption, right?
Yeah.
And just every time I deal with like a city entity, it always seems like they're not really taking care of the people.
Or they pass the buck.
Or they pass the buck, right?
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of times I've met some very nice people, like in parking. We met with some people who are very nice, but it's just like they're like, yeah, it's out of our hands. Like, sorry, you lost a bunch of parking. Don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. And yeah, it's because then you know there's nothing set in stone too, because you know it's like there's parking across the street, but these people own it, these people own it, these people own it. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, you don't know, and not just
and
that.
no one can get you the right answer.
Right, but even on the front, on the front of I won't get too specific, but the on-street parking.
Yeah.
So when they redid those roads and and did the medians and made the bike lane and all that stuff, they got rid of like something like close to 30 parking spaces to make room for the bike lane. Now, as you know, inside the community, there's not even enough parking for each unit, right?
No.
And not because the city of Hartford foreclosed on different garages, not every unit comes with a garage now. The garages are deeded separately. So a lot of people just have a unit and not a garage, right? And so even with a 1 vehicle per unit max, which is really tough, most people these days have 2 vehicles at least. Yeah. Even with that max, there's not enough parking spaces for units. Like we can't even have assigned spaces because there's not enough spaces, right? So then the next issue becomes, well, it's okay because we have a bunch of on-street parking that made it okay. Then the city came, and when they redid the road, they got rid of like 30 spaces and was just like, yeah, now it's a bike lane. Now you don't. And now it's like, well, now where are people supposed to park? We don't.
First come, first serve, which is not right if you're a unit owner to pay.
Oh yeah, it's exactly to pay and not be able to park your car. Like,
exactly.
How do you live there? And so there was, we met with the parking authority and a few different people. And like I said, they were nice about it, but they were just like, yeah, it's
the way it is.
Yeah, it's the way it is.
Like there's no helping like, oh, we could do this or we could do that.
Right. And so there's just been a lot of, between that and the MDC issue where like, you even when I first came on, the big thing with them was the underground leak, right? And I talk about this in actually a bunch of the different episodes because it was such a big deal and it was such a big deal to them. And the fact that we were able to fix that for them so early on in my career and in their, in our relationship was super cool, but also like it made it abundantly clear to me, like MDC took money from them, $70,000, I think, and said, we're going to help you find the leak, and then never did anything. I think they checked toilets or whatever. They're like, yeah. So, and that was years before I came along. And when we finally found what it was that they had planned another phase of the development, and they had run utilities and all this stuff, and then the developer had run out of money. And MDC never checked to make, like, they never inspected the plumbing. They never inspected to make sure that everything was done correctly. And so when the developer decided to close shop, they left all these main lines just live in this field and just covered it up and seeded it. And so when that failed, and it didn't take that long to fail, it probably failed 5 to 10 years afterwards, right? Makes sense because you just have live utilities going nowhere underground, exactly. Right? So when that started, this leak, and MDC just is charging these people for this water, and it's like, it ends up being like 1 million gallons, 1.4 million gallons of water a month, wow. Which is $15,000 a month for water. And when we finally fixed it, the water bill dropped from $15,000 a month to like $2,500 a month, maybe $3,000 a month. So that's $12,000 a month of extra water usage that was going on for over a decade. We're talking like 12, 15 years that MDC was aware of. MDC had the plans in their system. Like they had the drawings, they had the as-built, but offered no assistance in resolving that and just said, no, we want our money. We need you to pay for all this water usage, when the inspections were clearly never done to make sure that it was A, done the right way, B, that it was capped off when the project was completed or when the project was squashed. And then when they were notified that there's probably a leak and they said, we're going to help you find the leak, they didn't really help because we had to hire a civil engineer to go get the drawings from MDC to then say, oh, it's probably here, let's dig. And we dug it up a guy with no experience and got his little Kubota tractor, dug a hole in the ground and found water where there shouldn't have been water. And it's like, there's no way that nobody with the city could have helped with this issue. But they didn't care because they were just collecting the money and they're charging it back to the Muse. And now you have this association that's been paying this exorbitant water bill. The water company is not assisting in any real way. And their siding's falling apart. Their stairs are falling apart. They can't put money towards anything else because they're paying this crazy water bill. And there's nobody offering any help to them to fix the issue. And it just took, again, some kid with no experience in property management, or basically none. I'd made in business 6 months at the time, to go and talk to a friend of mine who's an engineer to get the drawings to dig a hole and find it.
Isn't that, hard work? Not hard work, dedication.
Just a little bit of common sense.
Common sense, dedication, doing your job.
Doing your job.
Exactly, right on point.
There's so many people through that. So, I mean, they hired leak detection companies. They had 3 different property managers over that time. They had so many people that if they'd just done their job, they would have resolved the issue.
A long time ago.
And now they've spent over $1 million in water bills that they never needed to spend. And who gets that money? MDC gets that money. And they're like, oh yeah, but you got the usage. But it's like,
what usage was it?
It's just wasted water.
Exactly.
And you think, how many other properties are like that? How many other properties are having similar issues, where it's just like they're just raking you over the coals, and they're indemnified because they're a city organization, so you can't really sue them, right? Even though they didn't do their job in inspecting and making sure it was capped off properly. And then when it goes to court, because we're like, there's no way this is right, and even our attorneys are like, this is crazy that they allowed this to happen. Goes to court and realize that, like, because they're a city entity and you can't really sue them, there's not really a ton of recourse. And then they tack on their attorney's fees, and it's just like 20% of the total cost of the suit, which we were talking like over $100,000. So the attorney showed up for one day, and then they came to an agreement and they settled it, and it was like a $21,000 attorney fee in addition to all this stuff. And it's like, it's crazy. It's just crazy that they're punishing the people that they're supposed to be serving.
Exactly.
And it's like, these are not people who did anything wrong. These are not people who have a background in construction. It's not their fault.
They just bought the property.
They just bought the property, and it's
wanted to live a life.
Right. And it's a corrupt developer that eventually filed for bankruptcy, and corrupt city officials that were part of this whole thing when it all got built and signed off on stuff that never should have been signed off on. And so all this stuff gets passed through, and the people paying the price are just innocent victims in that situation.
They just wanted to live the American dream, buy a home.
I can't tell you how many times we're looking for contractors to do work on that property, and they're like, hey, if possible, we'd love to give it to like a contractor from the city of Hartford. Like we love this, and Hartford gets a bad rap, right? It's rough. It's a rough city. There's a lot of crime, a lot of drugs, a lot of all this stuff. But the people in this community, they're all professionals. They're doing pretty good. And they're invested in putting money back into the community. They're invested in, they enjoy Hartford. Like Carson. We talked about Carson earlier. He's a teacher I forget which school it is. It's I think the high school. But, he sees some stuff, right? And he's like, I also see a lot of good. I see a lot of good people in bad situations. And, it's very unexpected of him, because you look at him and it's like this, pretty well put together white kid from New Hampshire. Right. Yeah. But he's teaching high school in the Hartford's inner cities, and he loves it, and he loves the kids, and he loves the people, and he loves the community. Right. And, even the neighbors, like the area, like none of that stuff bothers him.
No.
And, it's amazing that this group of people who want what's best for the community, wants what's best for the city, and are invested in putting back into it, they're the ones getting shafted, because the city officials and the city entities that are set up to serve them just don't care.
Exactly. It's like, if it's your fault, like maybe don't charge them water for a year. You know what I mean? Like something small, you know?
Right.
What's not charging water for MDC for a year? You know, what's it going to break at MDC?
Or just, I mean, they paid over $1 million in excess water fees. Like they had $100,000 tap. Just, you know, clear it or give them like 80% or what, you know, whatever. Like
let them get back into the positive. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Call
Not
it a wash.
Not hold them to it for every cent and, you know, exorbitant attorney's fees, $21,000 in attorney's fees for a day in court.
That's crazy. You picked the wrong profession.
Right. Right. So I think that's, I've learned a lot from that situation, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring you on, because you know, dealing with the stuff at Squire was one thing. It was, you know, but it was mostly just kind of construction stuff. It was stuff where just people weren't present. You know, the Muse was the first time that I was in a situation where, like, they were actively getting screwed by outside parties. And I had to try to help them out and defend them.
Yeah. And that's the thing is you took on that assignment, you know. And I let you know beforehand.
You did. You said it's going to be a lot of work.
It is. But it paid off, right?
It did.
Good.
Yeah. And you were always saying, because we did the landscaping and snow for them, and you were like, everybody always quits. Nobody likes the landscaping and snow removal for that.
The landscape is not bad. It's the snow.
The stairs.
Yeah. Not the stairs, the little parking lot. And
yeah, it's not that bad, though.
no, it's not. It's not. Well, we didn't get that much snow last year either.
No, but I mean, we got some the year before, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
We just have a good system in place. I think the issue was that they didn't have a good system, you know.
You know, as long as you get behind the mailbox, that's all I care about.
That's fair.
But, you know, I'll call you as soon as it's not behind the mailbox because I have to go behind it.
I know.
But,
and I'll make sure that
okay.
I do my best to make sure the guys take care of you.
Okay. No, but you've done a lot. And, you know, just by knowing by Jared's work, I mean, you know, a lot of these people hire him as doing personal jobs for him too. So what does that tell you about Jared? I mean, his work ethic, people know him. They hire him personally too.
I appreciate that. I think like 90% of it is just the fact that we answer the phone and we do what we say we're going to do, you know? Like,
people, I've never heard a complaint about you. And that's the honest truth. I mean, people love you out there. You know, Jared's there, Jared this, you know. I mean, how many places have you remodeled in the management since you managed these companies? You
probably like 5 or 6.
What does that tell you about you, though? It tells you that they trust you.
They do trust me.
Yeah. They trust you. They know you're straightforward. You know, you're not trying to rip people off. You're out there working. You got people out there working for you that are good. You know, what does it tell you? You know, people,
yeah, they
admire you.
They appreciate it, and you know they treat me well. That's the thing with the Muse. Like other properties we manage, like, you know, it's funny because I sometimes like in the nicer neighborhoods, like in the suburbs and stuff, man, they do not appreciate it. Like we try real hard and they just don't care. In at the Muse, they're like, any little thing you do, they're appreciative.
Well, it's kind of like, you know, if you grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth, you don't appreciate it. But if you grow up not having anything, and if you make it, you appreciate it more.
That's true. I remember one of my first experiences at the Muse was with Wilfredo.
Isabel.
Yeah.
You can't say names, but
sorry. I remember rebuilding one of their stairwells, right? Their decking stairwells, and this dude saw me working, and he comes out and he was like, "Hey, I got food for you." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah," and he made like this plate, like Puerto Rican food. It was amazing. And he fed me every day I was working on that job. And then anytime he would see my guys, he'd be like, "Yo, I got lunch for you." And he would feed the whole crew. And, you know, eventually I just started giving him like, you know, gift cards and shopping cards and stuff like that. Cause like he was spending a lot of money on food.
Exactly. Like, I mean,
but it was great. The guys loved it. They were always like, they would be on another property and they would like go
get their food. I think appreciation is like, you know, in Hartford is like food. It's like food is like basically, you know, I have customers I've never met. I bring a package to the door. Next thing you know, they're giving me a bottle. I mean, I'm like, wow, they're like, people appreciate the service you give,
Yeah. And that is true. I've seen a lot of people, even Carlton, he's given me, bottles. He doesn't know I don't drink, but he gave
wine,
me
right?
wine
Every year, yeah.
every year for around the holidays. And, a lot of really nice people. A lot of really nice people, and they do appreciate it. And one of the when I was developing, once I realized I was going to end up being in this business, right? And I had to be like, okay, well, I got to like make a real company and like set it up legitly, right? And because I never sat down to do a mission statement for property management or core values or goals or anything like that. It was just kind of like I fell into it.
Yeah.
So once I think after a year and a half, I was like, okay, like it seems like this is where the direction of my life's going. Let's sit down and do it the right way. And that's when I, rebranded to Paladin and I was looking at what I want the core values to be. And one of them was gratitude, because there's so many things that, like you said, it's like the food. It's the fuel that drives the whole thing, right? When people are appreciative of what I'm doing for them, and a lot of times it's difficult work, but the gratitude they show for the services we're rendering, that is really what drives me more than anything else. Like, we do it to get earn a paycheck or whatever, but like a lot of times the paycheck isn't equivalent to the amount of headaches I put up with to get the job done, right?
Exactly, yeah.
The paycheck is like, I had a new assistant. I mean, she had to start going to therapy after like 3 weeks here, because it's intense and it's brutal and people are not nice.
You can't make everybody happy. You cannot. I tell people all the time, you cannot make everybody happy. And the people that are miserable are the ones that aren't happy with themselves, so they want to make you miserable. You know what I mean?
That is true. That is true. But the flip side of that is the people who show gratitude are like, that's really what gives me the motivation to keep going and keep helping them. And someone just like you, right? Just saying, hey, I think you're doing a great job. Thank you. They love you there, whatever. You always have something positive to say.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you ever need anything, I'm there, right?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They just think you're the property manager,
Get it done. Get it done. No matter what, get it done. I pay you, get it done.
Right. You work for me.
Get it done.
Get it done, right? Do what I say. And it's like, can you at least help me want to help you?
Exactly. Like, can you please do this? Or is there any way? I mean, some of the stuff people ask, you can't even, it's not in your control.
A lot of this stuff is just out of my control.
A lot of stuff, it's like I try to tell people, like a condo association, you're in charge of the inside, and the condo association, it's for the community. So it's basically the property, the outside, the mutual places to go.
Right.
And
it is. And even like the decks and stuff like that. I mean, they're technically limited common elements, but
to me, they're not common elements. They're people own them. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I know.
Like, I'm not going to have, my neighbors sitting on my deck when I come home from work. You know what I mean? But if they want to sit in the hallway, that's fine. It's common area. You know what I'm saying?
Area. Yeah. So now kind of fast forward a little bit, because you got me in there. You almost gave me a couple other ones in Hartford.
Yeah, I gave you a couple. Well, there was another one, and the guy wanted to know how the pay HOA worked and stuff. And I was trying to give him the job, but some people want to try stuff on their own and they regret it.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
You're not hurting, but I mean, I think Jared does such a great job that I put his name out there if anybody's looking for some work done.
And I do appreciate that. And we're getting to the point, as you can see, by the amount of properties on the board, that I'm getting to the point where I can't take on any more properties reasonably.
Yep.
So the purpose of all this, did I ever tell you what kind of the game plan is with this?
No.
Because we started this year off with 3 3 associations. At the end of 2023, we had 3 associations.
Okay. The end of 2022.
End of 2022, we had 3 associations, and now November of 2023, we've got 12.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
So at this rate, I can't keep growing at this rate and maintain my sanity.
Yeah, no, you know, unless you can hire more people like that accommodate, but if you're the type of person that oversees everything, it's going to be hard for you.
It is. And I think the tough part is that I try to do a really good job hiring people who
care,
who have our same values and culture and all that stuff. But it would be unreasonable for me to expect that that I can guarantee, like when it comes to me, I can guarantee a certain level of service because I just know what I'm going to do.
What you're capable of doing.
Right. But even now, it's like it's getting to the point where even with my personality and me being very driven to do an excellent job all the time, there's just so much volume of work, right? There's just so many requests coming in every day. There's so many issues. There's so many people that it's tough to give every item the individualized attention that I think it needs. Now, you guys, your association's in good shape because you're one of my first ones. The Mews are in good shape. They're one of my first ones. So we kind of have a system in place for them.
Yeah, you have a page or a book for them. You know, you're already set up.
Right. And we know what to expect from them. They know what to expect from us. But like each new association, we got to get through that whole learning curve again. The community's got to get used to us. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. But my thing is, or what I'm thinking, or kind of the purpose that
we're doing this
and all this equipment's here, is because my goal is to have a training program where associations can buy the program for a nominal amount. Let's say, $1,000 or whatever it is. We'll start it there in $995 and see what happens. But it's a 12 module course, or like they can do it in 12 weeks, or however quick. It's got like recommended reading and homework and stuff like that assigned. But they take the course and they can learn how to self-manage their association. They learn the software. I train them how to use it. I train them the legal stuff. I train them on, all the stuff that makes me good at what I do. Even like the people stuff, right? The social and psychological, how to just treat people, how to deal with people, how to navigate these situations. Because I think a lot of the success that I've had is just because I'm pretty good with people.
Avoid confrontation. You know what I mean? Like if someone has a problem, instead of yelling at them,
right?
Just listen to them. Listen.
Right. Exactly. 100%. And if you can't avoid a confrontation, how to navigate it
away from it.
Yeah. Or to
escalate.
Right. In a way that's professional and that's going to get the best outcome. Right. Because there's certain people that are just simply unreasonable.
So true.
Right. Like we've had, so that's a good example. Like there was an individual on the board that you remember.
Yes.
And she was just an unreasonable individual.
Yes.
And there was no way to avoid confrontation with her.
But you handled it well.
I handled it in a way that eventually she no longer, like she just was like, all right, I'm going to quit the board. Right. I give up. Right. And it was, I didn't want to be mean to her, but at the same time,
you got to draw the line.
Right. And it wasn't her just affecting me. It was affecting all you guys. Like all of the board members were dreading having to go to their board meetings because it was just constant contention.
Well, one of the problems I see, and not just, it's like, I think a lot of people, if it comes to a condo association, if it affects them, it's a problem. It's a priority.
Right.
But if it doesn't affect them, instead of looking out for the whole condo association, like your neighbors and stuff like that, if it doesn't affect them, it's like, who cares? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, like it's like someone puts a job in and, it could be your unit, but that's the priority. Yeah, it's the thing. But is it affecting everybody in the condo association? But when there's a situation where it affects everybody, it's like the condo, we pay condo fees. We all pay condo fees. I agree. But it's for the association. It's for the whole community. It's not just for you.
Yes. You're right. Everybody thinks that the HOA is there to pick up the tab for the stuff they want done.
Yes.
and not realizing that there's X amount of other people in that association who all have equal rights to those funds.
Yeah, who
And
all pays their condo fees. Yeah.
everybody pays their condo fees, and it's who deserves it the most, because there's never going to be enough money to do everything everybody wants done. So the board is in place to say, okay, what is the most priority, and depending on the severity of each issue, the priority might not be your thing, right? It might be something you want, but that's not where the money needs to go at that time.
Exactly. I understand that. It's like one of my priorities is the clubhouse, but I mean, it is. But I mean, I know that's not on top of the list. I mean, it's like I told Jared, and I said at the condo board meeting, if you're going to redo our roof, put us at the bottom to do our hallways, because let everybody get a piece of the pie. Let everybody get the work being shown done.
Right, and that was such a wise comment. Like, I hadn't thought of it that way. And you kind of came out and just said it, and it was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And it's the building I live in. How many other people would say, because we were up next to get our hallways done.
Right, but you got a new roof.
So I mean, and we're gonna get a roof and hallways because we're up next. But I mean, yeah, you're showing our building love. But what about like this building that's being not being neglected, but
hasn't had anything done.
Exactly. So if you did our roof and we needed a roof, let's show some love to the next building. Let's show them, let's let everybody see that this money is being spent equally.
Right. So like one got new walkways, so they probably won't get their hallways done right away, right?
Exactly. Like put them on the bottom list. If you're going to do something for a building, put another building as just show, so it's showing that people that work is getting done there.
Right. And their money is going to something positive.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's so just to fill them in. I mean, you were involved from like a mailman perspective in condos and from just you living in one.
Yeah.
But you had never thought of nor had any desire to get on the board.
No. I didn't. But then, you realize, like your voice matters. It's kind of like voting. Your voice matters.
It does. It matters a lot more.
In a condo, yeah, because it's 50, 60 units, but 100 units, whatever. But your voice matters. You have say on what's being done. You're not just getting letters saying we're doing this, we're doing that. You have say. You know what's going on in the community.
Right. And
you should be part of it too. You should be part of it. You should. I mean, you should just not pay fees. You should know what's going on in your area.
Right. And the thing is, a lot of people a lot of really sane, well-rounded people, right? They have robust lives with friends and activities. I know you say you're in fantasy sports leagues.
Yeah.
You got a good relationship with your son. You got long-term relationships. You were married. You got stuff to do with your life, right? And so a lot of people, they look at a condo as like, I'm just going to pay someone else to do all this stuff. But the thing is, all the people who are good, positive people, good for their communities, they have a lot of friends. They have a lot of people pulling them in their various directions,
yeah.
Right? And so what ends up happening is, and I'm not saying this is always the case, but a lot of times what happens is the people who end up on the board are the people with nothing better to do, right? Who just aren't necessarily that great for any of their communities, which is why they have a lot of free time on their hands. Or B, they're just kind of fall into that situation because nobody else is willing to step up and do it. Because everybody's just so focused on their own lives that they're like.
But honestly, I mean, we talked about why I got on the board and stuff like that, but it's also, don't you want to know where your money's going?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody always asks that question, and nobody wants to participate.
It's like, don't you want to know why your condo fees are going up, or what's getting done? Where your condo fee money is going. It's part of being in a community. Like, honestly, you got 12 properties, and I was thinking about this too. It's like maybe like when you start, like how you went door to door, that was very appreciated. That showed a lot, honest to God. But I was even thinking bringing it up at our condo board. Maybe we should have a day where the condo association hosts like a picnic or something. Get to know your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, actually get to know people in the area. like the new buildings, you come out there with your company and you throw some burgers and hot dogs on, and get to know your neighbors.
That's a really good idea. And I think that'd be a cool function to put on for the 3 associations. Maybe we can set it up for the spring.
Yeah, right when the pool opens up. Like not that first weekend, but maybe the second weekend, and then that's where you can organize like teams, like a pickup team, like a plant team or something like that, where people can get together because you get to know your neighbors, you get to know, shoot, you might live next door to someone that you have a lot in common and stuff like that, and you don't even know it.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to like little ad hoc committees. Like people like
the painting committee
right,
or
landscaping or
a day of planting flowers or something like that, and just a pickup. I mean, I see it all the time. Like, there's a park in Hartford, Cole Park. I mean, that's public park.
Yeah.
Where they put in their little newspaper, once a month they provide hot dogs and hamburgers, but they have a day of cleanup at the park, and people show up. They provide brooms and stuff like that, trash bags. You just go around and pick up the park. It's for the future, for the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what the funny thing is that there's a lot of people in these communities that are very giving of their time and effort.
Yeah.
And I think that they don't get utilized enough because A, the management company is so big they haven't taken the time to get to know the whole community, or B, everybody's just kind of in their own little world and there's not really a lot of communication between like the fact that all 3 of the Squires have full boards. Like I can't tell you how many times, associations will come to me. They say, yeah, there's nobody else that's willing to serve on the board. There's like 1 board member or 2 board members. When I took over, there was 3 board members out of 7. They just couldn't get people to participate. And that's why, but nothing was getting done and nobody knew where the money was going and there's all this stuff. Just like,
and then they question everything. But instead of getting on the board and learning,
right.
You just want to question, But I mean, if you have that, I'm going to say mine because that's where I live. But I mean, if you have a day like where the pool's open, hot dogs, hamburgers, people get to know each other. People are going to say, oh, let's put the money together and get a new clubhouse.
Right.
That's my second plug, clubhouse.
I got you. All right. I see where this is going.
But even if the pool needs or furniture,
right.
It's like.
So I got a question for you. So there's been talk where I think we all talked about it, where if every unit in the whole 3 phases of the association put in like $800 or $900, we could get the new clubhouse or the deck done for the clubhouse. Would you be open to that? Like a one-time special assessment of $800, $900 to get a clubhouse?
As soon as my parking assessment comes off. That's my big thing right now.
Your what?
Parking assessment, the driveway. What is
or
paving?
the special assessment.
Yeah, the special assessment. Once that comes off, I'll be back on my feet again.
Well, you know that once that comes off, the dues,
something else is going to go up.
Yeah, it's not really going to drop by that much, but
no, I mean it's it's like, but there's talk. I mean, we got to go with all phases. Like I said, people got to think of other people too, not just themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff like we do have parking issues up there and stuff like that. We've talked about on the board and stuff like that, but. There's ways to work around it. Not work around it, but work through it. Like we get stuff done. If people put their heads together, stuff gets done better. And that's in any kind of association. If people, you're always going to have the naysayers. You're always going to have, for every 2 positives, 1 negative. But just see how it comes out.
Right. Yeah. I mean. And so you were a little resistant when I first brought the idea of being on the board, and I said, "Hey, Rob, I could really use your help. Like, I think you'd be a great member of the community. I think you'd be really positive, and you've been a really supportive, positive. I know you have a busy life, but you always find a way to
make the
meetings, and you've been a really positive contributor. I mean, some of the ideas you've come up with or presented have been implemented, and they've brought about good change, like the one way and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, that all happened because I don't really need it, but I went to go get the mail one day and someone was coming down as I was going up, and I was like, you know what? Safety comes first. It's like the way safety always comes first. That's why if you're going to fix like a walkway, that has priority over it. You don't want someone falling or something like that,
Right. You want to make sure it's a safe and enjoyable community.
Yeah,
And so since you've been on, and seen the inner workings of this is your first time on a board, right?
Yep.
And you've been on for over a year now, probably a year and a half.
Yep, year and a half.
So what has been your experience now, having seen both sides of it, just being a unit owner for a while, being on the board, and then being privy to all the stuff in your Hartford complexes of what you see going on?
It's nice to know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? It's nice to know where my money's going. Mm-hmm. It's nice to know like what's getting done. It's nice to know like problems with not problems with other people, but like other people's stuff getting fixed and stuff, like when they put stuff in job orders and stuff. It's nice. It's nice to see like things getting taken care of. It's
Yeah. And I think
because a lot of stuff you don't realize, like before I got on the board, I never knew like people wrote, like, oh, there's a light out, or, like it's just stuff like, stuff that they have problems with. You never think of it because you don't think of your neighbors. Now that you see it, you're like, hey, let's fix it,
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned through this whole process as well, just from being a unit owner to then being on the board to then being a manager, is there's so much that goes on that gets done that if we're not involved, we would never see. Even from a manager to the board, there's a lot of little items that we do. Like, you see the maintenance requests come in.
Yeah.
But you see how many maintenance requests come in.
Exactly.
And most of those don't trickle down to the monthly agendas, right? Like a lot of that stuff we just take care of and we don't even talk about it because it's just little stuff, right? The stuff that we
change a light bulb.
Right. Or fix a trip hazard or,
Before I got on the board, I mean, I didn't know anything about condos. If a light went out, I would fix it myself. I mean, it's true. But I called Jared and you were like, that's why you pay condo associations.
Yeah.
Because I remember one time our deck plates were coming up. Our deck, not plates, but deck
boards.
Those boards. I went out there with screws and did it myself. I mean, it's like what you told me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's while it's super appreciated, it's, there's a liability component to it as well, but also like, yeah, I mean, people's dues are going to repair all those little items. But I think when we're just a regular unit owner, we don't see the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. We don't see the maintenance requests that are constantly flowing in. We don't see all the little items that are always getting repaired, but are just, they're just not in all we're seeing is the stuff we care about.
Exactly. What's affecting us.
Right.
You don't, your neighbor might have other issues and stuff like that, and you don't notice it. Like, that's why you should be on the board, just so you know.
Yeah. Just, stay informed and make a positive impact on the community. I think for most of the board members, they've gone from having a very self-centered approach. Like when you first get on, where I don't want to say you, but a lot of people when they first get on, they have I'm getting on to make changes that are going to affect me. And once they've been on a little bit, they realize there's so much other bigger stuff going on. They're like, one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to continue just focusing on their own stuff, and then the rest of the board is going to be like, listen, they're not really being productive to the whole community. Or they're going to change to having more of a, like, wow, there's a lot more going on here, and I really have to be concerned for everybody, not just for myself.
For myself. Also, I mean, it's recommended, like, we're buildings, but I mean, even with the one in Hartford, is like a section should always be on the condo board. Like, you should have not a designated leader, but someone that represents your area. Like, whether it's a building, 6-floor building, one, maybe someone from each floor could be the eyes and ears for that floor.
Right.
Maybe, in our case, a building and the eyes and ears for our building.
Right.
Maybe in the one in Hartford, a section, like little section, eyes and ears for, because your word, which Jared can't see everything. His guys can't see everything.
No.
We need to help too.
Yes. And that's a huge piece. I appreciate there's a lot of unit owners that just let me know of stuff in a respectful way. They're like, hey, just to give you a heads up on this. It doesn't mean we can always fix it right away, but they're just giving me a heads up and they're not making it like accusatory. They're not like, why haven't you fixed this? It's like, hey, I don't know if you knew about this, but here you go. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
And sometimes I get like 10 of those
A day.
Well, for like, let's say the South Gate goes down, right, at the Muse, and it's like, I'm getting 10 people giving me that heads up, and I'm like, I know, I already got someone on it, thank you. But, but then there's other stuff where it's just like, hey, I don't know if you saw this, but this couch was dumped on the sidewalk.
Yeah, because
I'm not there every day.
You don't have eyes behind your head.
No, I'm not there every day, anymore. I used to be.
Yeah.
But the guys are there at least once a week, and that, and I think that's the challenge with growing. Like at a certain rate, it becomes difficult to get on site as frequently as I want to. And
plus, you got to rely on your guys. When you're there, at least you're out, and your guys might not be more efficient.
Right. And they do a good job, and they do try their best and all that, but it's just a lot of times a different mindset. They're not there during the board meetings. They're not there
to see everything.
Right. And I do my best to train them, and I think part of that's on me to just make sure that I'm communicating. Like, I think where I struggle with is communicating. I'm a very efficient person, and I say as few words as necessary in work mode, right? And what happens with that is sometimes I don't explain stuff as well as I need to explain it. So, I just give instructions, and then they think they're understanding the instructions correctly. And then it's like, well, no, that's not, I meant it this way, not that way.
Sometimes I think like that too, is like, I'll say something, I'm like, how'd they go from what I said to like changing it totally different? I mean, and then I'll sit back there and I'll say like, I said to make sure you put this in the laundry basket. Why is it on the,
Right.
It's just weird. It's weird.
Yeah. So what else, man? I mean, that's a lot of like the, we covered a lot of the meat and potatoes that I wanted to get through, but where are you at with it? How do you feel about being an owner in an HOA?
I like it because, I work a lot and stuff like that, and I don't really have time, like when I get out of work, to cut the grass and stuff like that. I joke with my friends and I'll say, yeah, I got tired watching them cut the grass, but no, it's there's pros and cons to everything, pros, it's, you don't have to worry about the outside. You can focus on the inside and stuff like that. You could work and stuff like that, but the cons are like, like you said, but it's being selfish. It's like, oh, well, they're doing a roof. There goes my condo fees. But you know what? You could edit that out. But it's everybody pays their condo fees, Right. And a lot of people think like, well, I pay this much a month for condo fees, so if I need something done, the money's there. But don't forget, you're taking care of a bunch of places. The money's got to be spread evenly.
Right. And I don't think people realize like how much, like I think you guys on the board, because you guys have to approve the budgets, but people just think like their $350 or $450 is all just like
their money
going to, well, not just their money, but it's all going to maintenance. It's like, no, maybe 10 to 20% of that, if that, is part of the maintenance fund. But a lot of that is just covering overhead. It's covering
light bills,
like electricity for your associations, like 12 grand a year, 13 grand a year. Like the insurance is 50 grand a year. The landscaping and snow is another 40 grand a year, right? Like just those items, electricity, water is, I think like another 14 grand a year. So just the water, the common electricity, the landscaping, the insurance, like that stuff alone is a huge chunk. The management fees are actually relatively small. Like the management with the property management company gets paid is, we just named landscape and all this stuff. I think management is like 16 grand a year. So the small, as much as you pay for water or electricity, right? Yeah. And then the maintenance is like, I think we try to put away 12 or 15 grand a year, right? And then that's not enough. And then there's the reserves, and then you have your loan payment, that's about to be done with at the end of the year or in 6 months, but it's like 50 grand a year, right? So it's like, I think a lot of people underestimate how much money is being spent in stuff that like does not contribute. Like you don't see your electric bill. Like people don't usually look around and be like, oh, like
And you
they don't see insurance.
And you got to take into consideration, some people don't even pay their condo fees. So you're getting stuck on that.
Well, yeah, we usually make sure that we get it eventually.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
yeah.
that's part of being responsible. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's true. Like, I mean, if a couple people don't pay their condo fees, it really like if you're only allocating 10 to 20% into maintenance, and I keep using maintenance because that's usually what's visible to people. Usually they see like when maintenance or capital improvement work's done. So if you're only allocating 10 to 20% of that, but now you have like a couple unit owners.
10% of your unit owners don't pay. That's
right. That's your entire maintenance budget that you don't have.
Exactly.
Because people aren't paying.
So now it's going to affect next year's budget.
Right. Well, eventually,
you'll get your money, but I mean, it's still, you shouldn't have to.
Right.
And
so I think there's a lot behind the scenes that people don't realize.
I think so too. I think it's a lot. It's like you said. Like before I got on the board, I didn't realize. I mean, I knew about my building. I always the building, but you don't realize like there's 8 of us. There's 8 buildings.
Right.
So you got to designate it fairly equally for the 8 buildings. So
right. Yeah, everybody's just like they're looking at their unit first and then their building second.
Yeah, exactly.
And not realizing that their dues are covering all the buildings.
Like one thing I'll tell you, I never thought about parking because I think my building's perfect in parking.
You got great parking.
Exactly.
A lot of parking.
Exactly. So you never really think about it. And, like I was telling someone the other day, I was like, I was looking around. I actually walked around the property and see where they could put spots. And I mean,
there's not a lot of places.
I found some.
I think there's 2 spots. One behind building 3, if you cut out some of the grass.
And where the trash can is, right? The dumpster?
No, because where are you going to put the dumpster?
We'll just find another place for it.
Where? That's easy to say. Where?
Oh, I know. That would be hard. But
I think that the other one is in next to your building, where if you cut a bunch of that grass, you could double the size of your
like
parking.
5, like right behind 5?
No, 8. Well, yeah, behind 5. Yeah, in front of 8.
Or just, cut out a little section and then make parking on both sides.
That's what I mean. That would be good.
That would, actually. But you know what? Are people from another building going to go over there?
If you put a little walkway there, I think you could get buildings from 3, 4, 5, and 6 to use it. But the thing is, it's not going to help 1 and 2 who's got the worst parking situation.
Exactly. So, I mean, like I said, before I got on the board, I wouldn't have thought, like, that's affecting my building. I don't want that. But you got to think of the community. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Not even, and what's interesting is, like, people just think, they assume that because the buildings were all built together, that everything was done the same way. And that's not true. Like, buildings 1 and 2 were built first. They're substantially smaller in square footage than the other 6 buildings.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're smaller in square footage. The plumbing is run differently. They used different fixtures sometimes. The laundry areas are a lot smaller. The storage units are a lot smaller. And so there's a lot of things that are they kind of built a couple buildings and realized some stuff that needed to be fixed, and then built more buildings. Even like, and it was through the 70s, right? So that was around the time where they were getting rid of or phasing out asbestos-containing materials. So the first couple buildings have asbestos-containing materials, and then like buildings after that don't, which wasn't a big deal back then. But now, like when you have a water loss or something like that, like it factors in whether you can just cut into a wall and do the work. And then insurance companies, like your insurance policy doesn't cover asbestos abatement. So it's like everything that, like a job that would normally cost $1,200 now costs $6,000 because you have to factor in asbestos abatement. Like it just amplifies the cost of everything.
Everything goes up, yeah.
Everything goes up, right? And so, it's really, it's challenging because a lot of times people just kind of look at, they don't have an eye for construction. They don't have an eye for, they don't understand how things work. And a lot of it is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But I think to your point and what you're getting at is that being on the board has helped you see all these components of the association that you never saw before.
Exactly.
And that's why I encourage in the training program and in these videos that I do, I think people, when they're unhappy with their management company or the association, their automatic assumption is to just fire everybody. And, you know, and sometimes that needs to happen, right? Sometimes you can do better.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would say the first step is always to try to understand what's going on first and try to participate, right? As a board member, try to get on the board, try to make change in positive ways before you make the determination like, you know, all this is bad, everybody needs to get fired, right?
Exactly. Know what's going on first before you make decisions.
Right.
You know.
And I think we had that even at your association, where we had a board member join the board essentially because they felt that I wronged them, right? They were unhappy with me and kind of an insurance claim situation.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And, you know, I think their intention of getting on the board was to try to get me fired because they were mad at me. And then after seeing
what goes on behind the scenes, like
right.
everybody's responsible. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right. And
then now they're a board member and they're actually pretty good.
They're great now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that there's been a level of understanding and respect that's come about because, you know, when they didn't see what was going on behind the scenes, they just thought I was the bad guy. And then once they see how I show up for the board and how I run the meetings and how I'm accountable and how much stuff we're trying to get done and what's going on and the actual funds and what they're being used for, they're like, man, like he's not as bad as I thought he was.
Exactly. You know, it's true. Like you said, you don't see what's going on. I think it was over driving the wrong way in the parking. That's what it was. That and the flood thing.
The flood thing, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Right.
But you know, a lot of people don't like. It's not. I'm not gonna say. A lot of people don't like instruction. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't like instruction, and you're the guy that has to give it. So of course, I don't like the way Jared talks to me. It's like, well, you got other board members. You talk to them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
It's a community affair.
It is, and I really appreciate how the rest of the board. I'd had enough rapport with the rest of the board by that point that you guys kind of all backed me up, and like we all heard their concerns, and we're like, okay. Thank you.
Because if it's morally wrong, we'll say something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's, you know.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. No.
You know? So yeah, man. So you like being, like living in an HOA.
I do.
And you enjoy being on the board.
Yes.
And you're hoping to get a new clubhouse.
Not necessarily a clubhouse. I just hate seeing that building just waste. But, you know, like our condo president brought up some good points. I mean, you know, it's a work in progress. I mean, just the parking itself. I mean,
the parking situation. That is the tough thing is like.
That's probably going to be the hardest thing, the parking situation.
If we get it fixed, like where are people going to park?
Because, you know, everybody thinks it's just a summer event. But, you know, like if I want to have a Christmas party, hey. I want to rent the clubhouse out for a night to have a Christmas party for my work. You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
like, you know, if I want to do a fantasy football draft, I could do it. You know, you can use it for more things, but like, you know, it's got to be sit down and done where it could be afforded, where everybody wants it, and you know, everybody would enjoy it, not just me. You know, if no one's going to enjoy it, then
right. I think it could be done. I think the parking. I think the toughest part is the parking situation.
I think because a lot of people on this podcast won't know, but I think if you take out 3 parking and try to make them parking across, if we could buy that land across, but there's a house there now.
Oh yeah.
You know, if we could turn that into like parking, or, you know, I know AutoZone's buying Friendlies, but if we could have bought that, and
no, I mean, but that's too far away.
Yeah.
I think you have room in front of 4. Where you got some woods there and you got some woods in front of 7. But the issue is that people buy in that community for the woods and they want the trees. So the idea of cutting down trees to build more parking lots is like, that's the opposite of what they want.
No, I mean, I was looking the other day. I was like, because 2, you can drive behind there. They got parking back there behind it with the garages.
Yeah.
So you could turn their front into like a guest parking for people, you know. But if all 3 combined, that would be like, I don't know. What do you think if all 3 combined? This would be off the record, but
No, I mean, we can talk about it, but I think that's a great idea. I think you guys are in much better position to take advantage of economies of scale if the three associations combine.
they always say strength by numbers.
Right. And you would go from, 56, 22, 28, 28 to 112.
Yeah.
And 112 affords you much more buying power. The issue is that each association has their own kind of special assessments
Yeah.
and loans. So it's like that's the complexity of it. But I think
But isn't loans by individual units?
no, the loans
Because
are
they offered me when I first bought it if I wanted to pay off my loan.
your special assessment.
Yeah,
Right.
a special assessment. Yeah.
It is. That is true. But it's like you still have to keep track of like which special assessment's going where.
Not me, management.
I actually do think I would have a system for it, but then I think it's probably a decent amount of paperwork on the attorney's end if they want to get that done. But I think I know the boards in general probably wouldn't be super crazy about the idea, but I think it would be a huge benefit because you guys could consolidate your trash. You can consolidate a lot of bills. You already consolidated like landscaping and snow.
But you
removal and
could
all that.
consolidate like parking.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we strengthen numbers. We can build something like, we have the numbers to make a parking lot.
Right.
We'd find something,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's possible, man.
strengthen numbers. But, we'll see. I mean, it's a community event. Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Or 51%.
67.
Oh, that's what it is?
Yeah.
I always thought it was 51.
Not 67 for an
Is that for everything or is that
amendment to the declaration. And the declaration
for our condo association?
for all of them.
For the whole?
Yeah. So the declaration is what basically stipulates what the definitions of the boundary of the associations are and all the legal of like the structure itself and where they're located and what comprises each unit and all that stuff. That's in the declaration. So you'd have to get the declaration amended, which is 67% of
The unit owners.
the unit owners. Yep.
So that's a high number.
Right. And you'd have to get 67% approval, not just voting.
67 approval. Yeah.
67% to approve it. So it means across the three associations, you need 60% of every unit.
So what if they don't vote?
Yeah, it doesn't count. You have to get votes until you have a 67% approval. But that's what we did when we got the declaration amended for you guys to get sliders and windows onto the unit owners. We got 67% for that. It was just a challenge. It was a long process and it cost a decent amount of money. It was like $6,000.
That's the negative about strength in numbers, though. If you can't imagine 112 owners. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you could do a good job with a 7-member board and
Yeah. Like I said, if everybody had their own building, looked out for their own building,
yeah,
that would be in the future, though. I'll be there forever.
good. That's what I like to hear. I hope you're on the board forever too.
I will be.
Nice.
Nothing's going to change.
I'm really glad to hear it. And you are the most mayoral person I think I know. I mean, you have good relationships with people. When we have the in-person meetings, you bring the pizza. You do all the right things, man.
You're supposed to, like I said. Yeah, the pizza's good.
Pizza's good. And you know what? But it's a good board. Like people in general on that board are good. Dennis turned out to be great. Like I was really nervous about him being president, but he's been an awesome president.
Like I know with the COVID thing, we don't do it, but once a year we should actually do it in person.
We do. In
Yeah,
June
that's
or
what I'm
July.
saying,
Yeah.
But and like walk around the property. That's what I'm saying. Like if you get all like when we do the picnic or something, whatever, you schedule teams where they walk around the buildings, look at parking. Like what'd you call it? Not teams, but like
Ad hoc committees.
Yeah. I've never heard that before. Ad hoc?
Ad hoc, yeah.
Okay, ad hoc. That's going to be my new word tomorrow.
Ad hoc.
Let's get an ad hoc committee.
Yeah, there you go. You should bring it to you're a union rep, right?
Yeah, we're going to have an ad hoc committee team.
So yeah, man. So and just to recap, do you think what are some of the skill sets or things that like I know you've been at the post office for a long time. You're a union rep.
Yeah.
So what does that entail?
Just, I don't want to talk about that.
You don't want to talk about it? Okay. So, but it, do you think any of this, the reason why I bring it up is
just leadership, you
Right.
know, like taking, you know,
representing others,
representing people, you know, just like the condo board, representing people.
right?
Yeah, it's always, you know, because there are people out there that have great ideas that just don't want to talk. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you get to talk to them and you bring their ideas up for them.
Right. And I think that's the point is, you know, there's a lot of capable and qualified people in the communities. A lot of times we're just not tapping into them as a resource. And if you don't step up, you know, you as someone who's
a voice,
a voice for them, someone who's social, someone who's good, you know, they're well liked among their neighbors, well liked at work, you know, is involved in these other extracurricular, you know, leadership roles. You know, you're in a great position to be a good foundational piece and support to your community on the board, right? And the thing is, if you I'm using you as an example, but if there's someone out there like you who's just kind of apathetic and they're like, you know, I'll let the board deal with it, right? Now everybody's kind of losing out, and including yourself, right? Like you're losing out because you're not well represented, you know, and there's nobody else like you representing you at these board meetings.
Exactly. You know, and plus you, like you say, you want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and you want to have a say in, you know, it's your community. You want to have say in your community.
Well, man, is there anything else you want to chat about today?
No, that's about it.
Well,
this is pretty cool. I like this.
Cool. Less nervous than you were going into it, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, just say the truth.
Right. Yeah, we're just chatting.
Chatting, having a good time.
Well, you know, I really want to thank you for coming out and doing this with me and for being, you know, generous with your time as you always are. And I, you know, really you know, I appreciate everything you've done for that community and for me. I mean, you know, just the referrals and you know, really being an advocate for myself and, you know.
I told you, you set an impression. You came over on a Sunday. You know what I mean? Like to help me, you know, like to help me set up. I remember sitting at the kitchen table and then it was just the weirdest thing that one day the lady came up to me and she goes, "Rob, do you know anybody?" And I was like, "The guy just came over yesterday." And I called you. Yeah. I still remember where I was when I called you because she was at her garage. And I said, "I'm just going to leave the phone with you and I'm going to go deliver the mail." And she came back and she said, "He's a nice guy." I was like, "Okay."
And I never would have thought anything of it. Like I was like, he needs help setting up HOA. Let me go help him set it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like you gave up your time on a Sunday. I mean, seriously, you came over to pass out the things. I don't know what time it was, but I know I was home, but you know, that's time and effort that you showed. That, you know, stuff like that doesn't get, you know, it's appreciative.
You know, I really appreciate that because I didn't, until us sitting here right now, I didn't realize that that's what triggered it. And it's funny because I always thought it was just going around and handing the notices out. And, you know, as we've gotten bigger, I've gotten more and more protective of my weekends, of my nights and weekends, right? Just because it's like I need some sanity for myself. But you've brought a really good point up that those little things, you know, a lot of people might overlook them, but if you can swing it and you can get out there and you can really, you know.
Because you asked when my schedule was. I have Sundays off. Because I remember I was still doing my stairs. You remember?
Yeah.
There were no railings on my stairs. I was like, if this guy falls, I'm screwed.
Exactly. So yeah, man, I appreciate that because those are things that I never thought that would develop into another relationship or another association.
Because that's how I knew you liked the Buffalo Bills. Because I was like, what football team you like? It was a Sunday. Because you said, when could I come over? And I was like, I'm only free on Sundays. And he was like, I'll be over Sunday. It was like 1 o'clock or something like that. And you were there. I was like, wow. You know, stuff like that. It doesn't get unnoticed. I mean, people should show appreciation like that. Yeah. You know.
I appreciate that. Bills are having a rough go at it this year.
Cowboys aren't even been better. Every year I expect something out of them.
They gotta do something with Dak.
Yeah, I have the most patience in the world. They say procrastination. I say I have patience, but I think it's time to give up on Dak.
Yeah,
It is.
I don't think he's gonna be.
He's not our savior.
He's not. And I, even with the Bills, man, like I love Allen. I love Allen as a person, as a player, but it's like you're on a roller coaster with him. Like some weeks he's just amazing, and other weeks he's just like,
Did we draft him?
I know, like, yeah. But the thing is, like, he's such a likable guy, and he's such a good character guy and locker room guy that you just want to like him. You just want him to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's the difficult thing, I think, even in business, right? Yeah, I'm struggling with that right now. Like people who I really like, who they just might not be as great of performers as I need them to be, but they're really great people, right? And where do you
separate business from?
Well, yeah, but where do you strike the balance of like they fit the company culture, right? They fit what our identity and what we're trying to be. I just need better performance, right? Like, you can get someone who's a better performer,
but not fit the company needs.
But not fit the company culture. Like, what's more important? And to a degree, at this point, I think culture might be a little more important.
Culture is, but you also got to see if there's potential. Like the person that likes the culture, but
right,
is there a way they could perform better, or will they pick it up? Some people learn differently. Some people learn I was in the military. Some people hand smart, which I was, but I could read this and I wouldn't understand not one word. And you read the tech manuals. There's some people that could read the tech manuals, tell you everything, but when you get them to do it in their hands,
yeah,
they couldn't do it. So people pick up things differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if you do it repetitively, you could do it with your eyes closed. Then it's they still have the character of the
company
job.
Culture. Yeah.
Yeah, the company culture.
That's good. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
All right.
All right. We'll wrap this up.
All right.